Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 3 healthy, wholesome breakfast ideas that are pretty quick to throw together and very tasty. If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Becca. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm super passionate about cooking real whole food for my family. I'm also very passionate about intuitive eating as well. So we don't follow any kind of specific diets around here. We don't cut anything out. We just try and focus on eating real food as much as possible because that's what makes us feel our best. But there's also plenty of room for balance as well. I have a whole playlist here on my channel about intuitive eating if you want to look more into that. But if you want to hear some of our favorite healthy breakfast ideas, these are all recipes that are fairly, quick to come together, made with real food, but they taste really good and we just kind of been rotating through these recently. So if you want to see those, let's get started. Okay, so this first one is an absolute family favorite in my house, and that is a Dutch baby, also known as a German pancake. Now, I have shared this on my channel before. I actually have an entire video showing you how to make a healthier version that does not have any refined sugar. I personally like to use einkorn flour. However, in this recipe today, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to make a sourdough version. It's super simple and very close to my original recipe. We're just subbing in some sourdough starter instead of flour, so that way any of the grains going into this recipe are actually fermented, they are broken down, they're more easily digestible, and also can be more nutritious. So I actually have an entire video here on my channel all about how to make a sourdough starter, and a separate video going into all of the benefits and the science behind sourdough, what actually happens to the wheat when it's fermented, how that impacts your body and your gut specifically. So if you want all the nitty-gritty details, definitely go watch that. Don't be intimidated by sourdough, because even if you are not trying to make like artisan sourdough bread, which can be a little tricky, you can make so many recipes essentially fermenting the grains by making it sourdough, and it makes it a lot healthier for your body in the end.
Okay, so we are going to start with cracking a bunch of eggs. You're going to need 6 eggs for a Dutch baby, which is a lot of eggs, but it also means that it's a pretty protein-rich breakfast. And since it kind of tastes like a pancake, but it's naturally much higher in protein, that is one of the reasons I love it so much, and my kids love it. My toddler, Hayden here, has also been super interested in cooking and baking recently, so I have been letting her come into the kitchen and help me out, which is really cute. Sometimes I'm like, move over and just let me do it, but for the most part it's pretty adorable, and I love that she is interested in it. So we're gonna add 6 eggs to our bowl. And then we're gonna move on to the sourdough starter. So you can see the starter is super happy, it's well fed, it's nice and bubbly, which is exactly what we want. So we're gonna add 1 cup of sourdough starter. In my original recipe, we just use 1 cup of flour. So in place of the flour, we're going to be just adding our starter. And I have a whole video on my channel and a very in-depth blog post that shows you how to make your own starter. What I will tell you is don't overthink it and don't be too technical about it. It probably will turn out just fine. I tried to make a starter many, many years ago and it just totally failed and I was so confused. But this time around, I'm way more like lackadaisical about it and it turns out just fine. So then we're gonna add 1 cup of milk. A pinch of salt, so probably like half a teaspoon or so. And then we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This gives it a really nice, just background, kind of rich vanilla, sweet flavor. And then a tablespoon of maple syrup. Typically Dutch babies call for refined sugar, but mine is sweetened with maple syrup, so you get to skip out on all of that. And we're just going to mix it up, and it's basically going to create a pretty liquidy pancake batter. And while you are getting this batter together, I would recommend getting your butter heated up. So it takes a lot of butter, which is probably why it tastes so good. So you're gonna put about 5 tablespoons of butter in a skillet to warm it up. And then once the butter is all nice and melted, you're gonna take that fully incorporated, I like to whisk it to really get it mixed together, batter, and just go ahead and pour it right in the pan. My pro tip is to make sure you're pouring it in the center so all of the butter goes to the outside. This will make sure you get like a really nice, even, puffy crust and not like weird craters in the middle. Not that it matters, it all tastes good. And once you get your batter in, just go ahead and pop it in the oven. You want your oven nice and hot at about 425 degrees, and you're gonna let it bake for 25 minutes. So you just kind of whip up the batter real fast, and then you can put it in the oven. We go read books or play with the girls while it's baking, so it's very hands-off, which is nice. And you will see when it's done, it gets nice and puffed up. So with the starter, it's a lot more dense. It doesn't get quite as giant and fluffy as the one that I make with flour, but it still is so delicious. So if I had to compare the two, I would say that I enjoy the texture of the Dutch Baby made with flour more because it's lighter and it's fluffier, whereas the one made with starter is a lot more dense, which makes sense because you're not putting in light fluffy flour, you're putting in like a thick, heavy, kind of liquidy starter. But the flavor of the sourdough version, it has that little sour tang to it that just adds such a richness that makes it so much more tasty, in my opinion. It just really deepens the flavor, and I love it so much more for that reason.
Okay, so this next recipe is another pretty quick and dirty sourdough favorite here in my family. Again, it's not tricky, it always turns out pretty good, and it's not fussy, and that is sourdough English muffins. So we make these, you know, once or twice a week and pair them with scrambled eggs. It's a really easy breakfast. Sometimes we straight up just do eggs and toast, but this is just kind of a more elevated version. It's much tastier than just a piece of toast with butter on it, and they really are pretty simple to make.
Okay, so I am starting by grinding my flour fresh. So I am putting wheat berries into this flour grinder that I'm obsessed with. I will link this down below. It sits on my countertop. It's the easiest thing ever to use, and it makes the most delicious fresh flour. So I have an entire blog post that I will link down below for you guys, all about the benefits of fresh flour over store-bought flour, as far as nutrition and flavor and where to source grains and basically everything you need to know. So I do 1.5 cups of wheat berries, which makes like about a cup and a half or so of flour. If you're using store-bought flour, I would just use 2 cups. So we do a cup and a half of the berries to make flour. Then I do 1 cup of water and then 1/2 cup of sourdough starter. So it's like 1.5, 1, and then 1/2. So it's pretty easy to remember. I actually learned this, how to make sourdough English muffins in this like really easy manner from Lisa Farmhouse on Boone, her blog and YouTube channel. If you guys are not following her, she's incredible. I love her. Highly, highly recommend. So you're going to mix all of this up, and this is the night before you're going to make them because you want the starter that you added to the flour and the water to actually ferment that flour, and it needs time to do so. So I will do this like the afternoon or the evening or right before I go to bed, the day before we plan to have the English muffins, and just sit them out at night. Then the next morning, it is time to actually make them, which is super easy. So first I'm going to get my skillet nice and heated up, and I got a good amount of avocado oil on there because you don't want them sticking. So here is what the dough looks like. It kind of puffs up and gets bubbly and it grows overnight. So then I add about a tablespoon of maple syrup, a pinch of salt, and then I also add 1 teaspoon of baking powder, which is just going to help them rise and puff up even more. And when you use the starter the night before, you do want that starter to be fed, meaning you gave it flour and water within, 4 to 12 hours or so before, just enough time for it to like bubble up and just get active and happy. So then I'm just mixing these ingredients in the next day, and you'll see the dough is really kind of sticky. And actually it's actually not sticky at all. What am I saying? But it sticks together. It's not a shaggy dough. It really forms a nice ball, and it's really easy to pull scoops out. So I just take a spoon. These are not perfectly shaped. Again, we're not going for anything fancy here. It's just quick and dirty, wholesome food that's pretty easy to do. So I just take a spoon, take little blobs of the dough. As you can see, it's kind of stiff, which makes it kind of easy to form them how you want. But again, I am not a perfectionist about this. I don't care if they're a little bit misshapen, not winning any awards for their beauty over here, but they do taste good. So you're just gonna pop them on this skillet, and you want it to be on pretty low heat. Because this dough is on the dense side, it takes a good amount of time, like a solid 20 minutes or so or maybe less, for these to cook all the way through, but you don't want the bottom to burn. So I put it on, I have an electric stove. I put it on like a 2, sometimes even less, and you'll see that they start to puff up and they'll actually double in size. And when you get to that point of they're doubling, and also the bottoms are golden brown, that's when you're going to go ahead and flip them. So they're still kind of sticky and raw dough on the top, but you can see the bottom is a nice golden brown, gives them a little bit of a crispy layer on the outside, just a tiny bit of crunch. Oh God, they're seriously so good. And they're warm and they're fluffy and they're just delicious. So just keep an eye on them and make sure they're not burning on the bottom. But again, you want that heat to be pretty low so that you're not undercooking the middle so that it's gummy, because nobody wants that. Okay, so next, to pair with our English muffins, I'm just making some good old scrambled eggs. Again, not fancy, quick and easy, but super nutritious. So these are all of our eggs from our chickens. So they have super deep, rich orange yolks. So a little tip for eggs, the more orange and brightly or richly colored the yolk is, the more nutrient dense it is. So if you're getting, the cheapest eggs at the store, they probably have a pretty yellow, maybe even more of a pale yellow yolk. But if chickens are allowed to graze on grass and eat bugs and forage and essentially have a much more varied diet, they're going to end up with much more nutritious eggs because they just have more nutrients that they can put into those eggs. Versus if they're locked up all the time and all they do is eat like a chicken feed, they are only getting the same set amount of nutrients every single day, if that makes sense. So typically I add milk to my eggs, but we were all out, so I did a little dash of heavy cream, which I'm not complaining, it makes for even fluffier eggs. So then I just whisk that in. And the key with cooking scrambled eggs on a cast iron skillet, which I know a lot of people typically have a hard time with, there are 2 main things that you want to do, or maybe it's 3. So first, I'm just taking off the English muffins. As you can see, they look so good. They are thick and they're puffy. They've got that crunchy layer on the outside, but I'll show you when I open them up, they are soft, a little bit chewy. They've got all those nooks and crannies. They're seriously so good. I'm obsessed. Okay, so back to the scrambled eggs. So when you make them on a cast iron skillet, you want to make sure that there's a good amount of fat on there so nothing's sticking. So as you can see, I added some butter to the pan that had already melted. So that is key. So you want to make sure you have a good amount of fat. Also, the other main thing is you want to make sure that skillet is super hot and well preheated before you put the eggs on. If it's not super hot and you put the eggs on, they're going to stick. But as you can see, they literally just slide right around. My skillet was super hot from the English muffin, so I didn't necessarily have to preheat it. It was already hot. Add a bunch of butter, throw your eggs in, and you are good to go. And the less that you stir them, the less chance they have of sticking as well. So for scrambled eggs, I always just add a little bit of salt and also some pepper just to season them. But that's literally it. It is super easy to cook scrambled eggs or eggs in general on cast iron skillets. You just kind of need to know the tips to make sure that they won't stick. Okay, so here are our lovely English muffins. So we just slice them up. We'll put some butter on or some jam. As you can see, this is what they look on the inside. They've got those nooks and crannies. They're nice and fluffy. As long as you cook them on a pretty low heat, they're gonna cook all the way through. So I'm just adding a little bit of butter. We've been getting butter from like a local Amish farm recently. I'm trying my best to source locally as much as possible. And here is the final product. Of course, a little organic ketchup goes a long way. We love ketchup with our eggs in this house, but it's so tasty, very filling, and very nutritious.
And then my third recipe for you guys is good old-fashioned oatmeal. If you have been following me on my channel for a long time, you know that my love for oatmeal runs deep. It is just wholesome and hearty, especially in the colder months, like a warm, steamy bowl of oats with some fruit and some nut butter. It's just so satisfying. And I recently have been loving the Instant Pot to make oats because you just pretty much throw the ingredients in there, set it and forget it. So, you know, we'll come down in the morning, we'll throw everything in the Instant Pot and get it going, and then we can just hang out with the girls and play and read books and build blocks and do whatever it is they want to do. I'm not babysitting a pot in the kitchen, watching to make sure that the oats are cooking and not burning or anything like that. It's just doing all the work for me, which I just really, really appreciate. And it just makes life so much easier.
Okay, so I am using my Instant Pot to cook this oatmeal. We have been doing this a lot recently, and it's kind of like the easy button for oatmeal because you can just kind of set it and forget it. I'm not babysitting a pot over the stove. So for rolled oats, we do 1 cup oats to 2 cups liquid. And I actually like to do half milk and half water. So 1 cup milk, 1 cup water, 1 cup oats. And if you're doing steel cut oats, which I actually prefer, but we didn't have right at this moment, I do 1 cup of the oats to 3 cups of water. So add the water, add the oats. I like to add a little splash of vanilla as well, and that's it. And then we will just pop on our lid, make sure that the valve is closed so the steam isn't escaping. And then I cook them for, I think it's 4 minutes or 2 minutes for the rolled oats. It's pretty quick. It takes time for it to come up to pressure, so it doesn't actually take 2 minutes to cook, but you can see they come out so creamy and delicious, and we just love cooking oatmeal this way. So I will add our oatmeal to a bowl. They are hot and steamy and filled with fiber, which is gonna make these oats, or this breakfast, a bit more filling, even though it's not very high in protein. And then lately what we've been doing is we've been adding almond butter or peanut butter. This is crunchy almond butter. It's so, so good. I got this from Trader Joe's. I love the crunch, and I just love, sorry, I have a friend here. I love the almond butter, or love almond butter. And then we just top it with some fresh blueberries, and it is so tasty. Again, pretty filling, and everybody in my family loves it.
All right, you guys, so those are 3 of my current favorite healthy breakfasts that we've been rotating through. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I hope that you will give these recipes a try. Let us know down in the comments below if you try them and how you are liking them. You can also follow me over on Instagram and tag me in a story and I will share it. I love seeing you guys recreate my recipes. I am all about simple, no fuss, but use real ingredients so that our bodies are benefiting from all of that nutrition. I hope that you guys will find these recipes helpful. I totally know the struggle with breakfast, and honestly just cooking meals in general. It's so easy to get into a rut and then you just get bored, and food should be satisfying and exciting. It's such a huge point of satisfaction in our life, and if we're bored of it, we're obviously not enjoying it, and enjoying food is so important. So I hope that you guys will try these out. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, check out the sourdough videos. You can also check out my what I eat in a day videos here on my channel, where I share tons of meal ideas. But that is all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.